Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Gospel of Comics. I am your host, the Church of Failure, and with me, as always, is Ayrton McCartney, my trusty sidekick.
What is up, everybody?
This week, we have a special guest with us over stream. We have Kevin from It Resolves.
What's up, guys? How's it going?
It's going. How about you?
Doing well, man. Pretty stoked to talk about some Magic comics. It's going to be interesting, if nothing else.
I mean, you're definitely never going to get a Wizard sponsorship after this stream. Not going to happen.
I wasn't ever counting on
it. For those of you who are unfamiliar, first off, Kevin's links are down in the description. His Twitter for It Resolves and the YouTube channel for It Resolves. Definitely give him a follow and a sub on YouTube. He does Magic the Gathering content such as, well, I'll let him explain it. Kevin, what do you do?
We do a lot of stuff. Lately, we've been focusing on crack-a-packs, so they're random, and we go through, we get to open stuff all the way back to 4th edition, which is pretty fun. And then we've also kind of breached into the arena gameplay a little bit since we've finally been able to come up with a way of recording that on a Mac. But yeah, other than that, I mean, that's pretty much the focus. We do have our podcast, which comes out now bi-weekly. So you can check that out if you're interested. That's in the podcast app and all that jazz. But yeah, that's about it.
All right, cool, man. And for those who don't know, what is Magic the Gathering?
What isn't Magic the Gathering? It is an absolute cluster of things. It is a card game, but albeit there's a lot of story behind it, which is obviously going to be the focus of what we're talking about today. But it's one of the most popular card games out there, if not the most popular. Andrew, you better fact check me on that.
It is the most popular and has recently been deemed the most complex card game in the world.
I saw that. I didn't see like who determined that, but like I did see the little article thing. I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a massive card game. Lots of fun. If you are not into it, I highly suggest checking it out. And of course, I'm biased, but you can do so via our channel if you're interested.
Absolutely. And Magic's one of those things. I mean, it's like Let's Plays. If you just follow creators who are passionate about Magic, you can enjoy Magic without ever actually being involved in it.
Oh, 100%. 100%. You really, one of my favorites is Day 9. Just to watch him play is one of the best things ever.
Well, I recently admitted on Twitter to binge watching Rudy open cards from boxes because I no longer play, and it's just really nice to see, and his reactions too. But I think it depends on the personality. But still, you can. My smallest chapel has joined us in the background. She does this occasionally. She wants to be famous, I think. But anyway, no.
She chose the wrong avenue to do it.
I know, right? I know. But just to kind of jump into what we'll be discussing today, this is going to be a little bit of a different episode. Instead of reviewing these comics, because the general consensus of the trio on stream here is that I am a terrible person for asking these two gentlemen to read these comic books.
Yeah,
these comic books are not something that I would wish on anybody. Let's get that out of the way first and foremost.
No. Bad.
You know, and that's the show, folks.
Maybe Kim Jong-un.
Thanks for joining me. But no,
fastest review in the world.
We're going to be looking at just the things that kind of went wrong here. I think is going to be the part of the discussion here, and how it ties into the card game world and things like that. So everybody go ahead and strap in for that. The first ones that I read were the Antiquities War, and during the pre-show, I think we all pretty much established that was the most stomachable series.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I mean, it has the most depth, and as you mentioned, it definitely has the most character development out of the ones that we did get through. And it was still bad, but it was less bad, I will say, than the others for sure.
See, and that was the one I didn't get to in my reading because of
No.
course.
No, I started with I started with it based off of the list that was sent over. I tried to keep things as in order as possible. So,
Right.
but
No,
it was definitely the best of a bad situation.
just take a minute to say hi to Becky in chat. Becky is a
Hey, Becky.
frequent guest of the show. She is the co-host and
I
producer.
ate all your peeps, Becky.
She is the co-host and producer of the Dead Man's Tome podcast. But anyway, no, the Antiquities War. That's the story of basically the Brothers' War, as Magic fans will know it. Urza and Mishra, and their comeuppance from before the actual Brothers' War started. Now, as far as the lore goes, I think it was pretty on point with that particular story. The problem becomes we read. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say yes and no. Like, having read the books, and I know you have too, and so you probably know more than I do about that side of things. But like, it missed out on a lot. Now, obviously, it's a shortened form, so like that's to be expected. But I feel like there was so much more buildup that they could have done. There was just so much in the novels that they didn't really seem to touch on, in my opinion.
Right. Well, the novels up until what was it? The Innistrad block, I think, is where they stopped printing like full 3-book series for sets and stuff. Right? You just got a block book at that point.
Yeah.
But before that,
exactly.
they used to put out 3-book series, and some of them would even tie together as far as circling back around to characters and planeswalkers and stuff like that.
Right.
Now, we're not going to go into the depth of the explanation of every little thing, but a planeswalker is essentially someone who can walk between realities. Imagine being able to think about being on Pluto and then you're on Pluto. That's a planeswalker.
Yeah.
Okay. I saw these words popping up, and I was like, I have no idea what any of these mean.
Well, they're essentially extremely powerful mages. In the game of Magic, it's always been explained to me that you are a wizard. When you sit down with your deck of cards, you're role-playing a wizard, and your cards are your spells. Even the creatures you play are summoned by your power. And that's essentially what you are as a planeswalker. And War of the Spark just came out. Now everybody's a planeswalker. Oprah of Planeswalkers, War of the Spark. I think some of them were even unnamed, weren't they? Didn't they introduce a character called the Traveler?
The Wanderer.
The Wanderer,
yeah. The Wanderer.
Yeah.
There's so much, not to tangent here, but there's so much speculation, but that is actually Elspeth, and I find that really interesting.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But anyway, that's another topic for another day. But
also, no worries about tangenting. That's pretty much all the show is. I mean, that is
basically.
Yeah,
that's what I'm used to. So I'm super
literally.
Good with that.
Yeah,
we should change the show to the tangent of comics.
That's actually not bad. Where were you 2 months ago when we were trying to puzzle out a show name?
I don't
know. Oh yeah, drunk on Twitter offering to be my co-host.
Yeah, basically.
There you go. That's how Will got his position.
I mean, I thought it was something else.
Hey,
we're not going to go into that. I love you, Will.
Now.
I love you, Will. I'm sorry.
As long as you don't make eye contact, it's not gay.
Is that what they told you? Sorry.
That's what Church told me.
Oh, Church is leading you astray. That sounds very familiar.
This is already a train wreck. I love it.
Oh yeah, 100%.
But we read through, I think cumulatively we read through 5 different series: the Antiquities War, Ice Age, Fallen Empire, Jedit, and what was the other one? Fallen. I said Fallen
We
Empires.
did Antiquities War, Blackblade, Elder Dragon,
Elder Dragons is the one that
and
I read.
then, well, yeah, I read bits and pieces of Legends, so through that, Antiquities War, and then I did not make it to Ice Age.
Um, I started
You're
Ice
lucky.
Age. I started Ice Age and couldn't finish it. I couldn't bring myself to do it.
Is
And
it that bad?
Yes.
Yeah, it was that bad. I did the same thing.
Is the screen share showing up for everybody?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. You can see I've got the Ice Age cover pulled up here. The first issue, which is what I read, amounts to everything you can gather from this cover. They say never judge a book by its cover, but this is a book you bought for the free Magic the Gathering card.
Yeah.
And then you hated yourself for spending $2.50 for a Magic the Gathering card.
Yeah, I was gonna say back in that time.
Well, these and I wanted to touch on that briefly. Magic the Gathering started in what, 93?
Yeah.
So these comics were pretty quickly jumped on. They were by Armada Press, which is a now defunct comic company, as far as I can tell. I haven't seen anything come out of Armada for a while. Let me fact check that real quick. But
Yeah.
they are very 90s comics, and for comic fans, that's indicative of a time when comics actually started to die. Stories just became too convoluted. They became very wordy. The artwork was some of the best we ever had before the digital age, of course. It was very, and some of the artwork in these books reminded me of playing Magic from Ice Age. Like the artwork in these books made me think of some of the older cards, but some of it was just god awful.
Yeah, I did enjoy looking at some of the artwork and some of the character designs and stuff, being as I've never played this game ever. I thought that was at least fairly decent and entertaining to look at, just
Right.
not to read and try and understand what was going on.
I think I would agree with that. I mean, it was definitely visually okay. I didn't have any issues on that end of things, but that was its maybe one saving grace, I guess, in all of this.
All right. Well, I mean, we kind of judge comics on an art versus story scale because
Mm-hmm.
you need both to. Oh, and I have an update here. Armada Books was an imprint. No, that was just for main publishing. That wasn't comic publishing. Never mind. I'm an idiot. But you judge on art and you judge on storytelling, but the storytelling in these were just not good. I think the cards do a better job of telling the story through flavor text than these comics did.
I'll second that 100%.
But it just, I can read some garbage too. That's the thing. Like you can ask Ayrton. We went through DC 1,000,000. I have read some awful comic books in my life, but this really was something I was not expecting. I thought that these were going to hold a little truer to the books and to the reputation of Magic the Gathering, because Magic the Gathering is essentially a card game of Dungeons and Dragons, right?
Yeah.
So you would.
I mean,
go ahead.
The way I looked at it, though, like, not to interrupt you, I'm sorry.
Oh no, absolutely.
The way I looked at it, though, it was like the card game itself was its own version of telling the story of Magic. And
Right.
then you had the novels at the time, which obviously they've been stopped later on, but that was sort of the in-depth version. And so me, as an outside person, not looking at this from a comic perspective, as in I don't really know much about comics, but I know enough about Magic the Gathering, my thought process was, okay, this is just the shortened version of the stories that are being told elsewhere. And so this is just a new stream of a medium to apply to a different market. You know what I mean? Like, if people are interested in comics, this is how the Magic the Gathering game reaches the comic people. And
Right.
like, I tried to view it through that lens, but I don't think if I was in that market at that time, I don't think this would have been interesting enough at all.
No.
Like, it just, there was no depth to anything at
No,
all.
and
There
there
was
was,
nothing.
yeah, and from page to page, you had a hard time telling what was going on with a lot of these stories.
Yeah.
It just, it really feels like they were just trying to get as much out of the title as they can. And from what I just learned, that Armada Comics is a subdivision of Acclaim Entertainment.
Huh.
Yeah, the creators of, well, the home of Mortal Kombat and Killer Instinct, but that's kind of interesting. But it
I
seems
did
like
not know that.
in the early days of Magic, the creators decided to try and get a little bit of money for the license to this, and the people with the comic license just did bad things. They did very bad things. Now, we've already discussed this, because we were on a little bit of a short time scale. We weren't going to go through the old comics and the new comics for this episode, but at a future time, we're probably going to look at the newer comics that were published post, I guess, 2000, back when IDW picked up the license and the comics got better. I won't say
Yeah.
good, but I'll say better.
I mean, it's kind of hard to be worse, right?
Give me 2 days and a fifth of bourbon, and I will find something worse.
Oh, I'm sure you will.
But no, like I say, I'll briefly touch on the theme of the Antiquities War. That's the story of two brothers who are very popular characters in the Magic the Gathering timeline, and they paralleled, and one of those characters was quite possibly the most popular and instrumental character in Magic the Gathering until what, the mid 2000s.
Yes. That sounds about right.
I mean, Urza as a character was, I mean, just you had going on 15 years of history and lore with that character.
Yeah.
And
Oh, yeah. He was pun intended here, he was the head honcho. Definitely.
I guess the cat's out of the bag now. Kevin and
it is.
Kevin and I have known each other in life. Not
Yeah.
anymore though. He's off the Christmas list now.
Hey, all for calling you your name.
That's it.
It's terrible.
It's
been fun, guys.
I'm gonna pull up an image of that reference you just made though. That's I think that's something that people should see. Just
nobody else is gonna get it unless you're into it. So
right. Oh wow.
Long story short, he's been beheaded.
Yeah.
And so they made a joke card, the headmaster.
Right.
Which is great.
Well, Magic the Gathering's always kind of been it's always been able to make fun of itself, and we have several sets called the Und sets. If you wanna explain those while I try and find a large enough image to show the people.
Well, so we've had 3 unsets, if I'm not mistaken. There was Unglued, Unhinged, and the latest was Unstable. And they all set out to poke fun at the game itself, and then also bring in... It's actually been a place of testing mechanics in some cases that they were thinking about doing for the main game. But Unstable was the latest, which is where this card came from. And it was sort of a play on Dungeons and Dragons, if I'm not mistaken. Like, directly from Dungeons and Dragons. There was a lot of dice rolling, a lot of things that you would do in that game that they then applied to Magic, and it was a lot of fun. Actually, it was a pretty fun set. But I mean, just the silliest cards that you could think of were in the unsets for sure.
Right.
I'm trying to think of the Earl of Squirrel was one of my favorites.
Oh yeah. The
I liked the
Infinity Elemental.
yeah, that was a good one. From the Unhinged set, I loved the ass cycle.
Yes.
The
yes.
like cheap ass, smart ass,
City of Ass.
dumb ass, city of ass. Like it was just great. I loved it.
Now that's piqued my interest.
Yes.
See, there you go. There's something for everybody with Magic the Gathering.
There really is.
Yeah. I mean, genuinely.
Unless you're a comic fan.
Well, yeah, fall a little short in that regard.
Yeah. I mean, unless you're a comics fan, and then there's nothing. There's nothing for you in the old comics. Somebody's cracking a cold one.
Yep.
I'm jealous. I really should have gotten a drink before this. I have water, but I don't have a drink.
I mean, you're more than welcome to go fix one.
No, it's fine. I had like 3 earlier, so I'm good.
There's Urza.
Only 3?
I drink scotch only. So
that's
enough.
no excuse. No excuse.
there
But there's
I had a martini with dinner, and now I'm drinking Guinness. So
you go.
There's Urza for everyone to marvel at. Let's see if I can get a little higher resolution there. This is peak boomer hours here, guys.
I will say, to bring this a little bit back to the comics, what I did like about the Antiquities War is because as someone at the time of like playing with some of the cards and things like that, I didn't know the backstory. My assumption was that Urza was the all-out good guy while Mishra was the all-out bad guy.
Right.
One thing that the Antiquities War does pretty well is not really establish a good or bad guy, and I kind of like that.
No.
Like, it pits them against each other in a way that makes you think, okay, there's one good, there's one bad, but they both have really bad characteristics that they do talk about in the comics, which is kind of nice.
Right. They touch on that a little bit in the books, especially when Urza is forming the 9 Titans, I believe they're called.
Yeah.
And he has intentionally built one of them's armor to explode on his command because he's such an awful human being and he expects betrayal from everyone.
Yeah. Well, and even in the comics, they were like, yeah, he's kind of an ass towards his wife. And it's like, all right, cool. Like that's fair. Like,
right.
He's not perfect. Cool.
Yeah. And, as brilliant as he was, both of them were kind of sociopaths. Also, I'm just noticing the monkey in the background of this art. The monkey with the
You've never
symbols.
noticed the monkey?
I never noticed the monkey. I noticed the rubber duck, but not the monkey.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
I like that.
Oh yeah, and it's not obscured on his text there. It literally has that many abilities. Like you have to roll a dice online, like go through a randomizer online to play this card.
You did. I actually went to the website for this the other day because for some reason, I don't know why, but this card came up, and I looked at the website for this one to get the randomized abilities, and they updated it. They're still updating it for like War of the Spark and stuff. I was like, dang, I'm kind of impressed that they're doing that. Like, I just didn't think they would. Like, it's not like a card that's legal anywhere except for just for fun. So I didn't really think they'd care that much.
Right.
But
well, it's it's one of the more fun things that they've done recently because we didn't think we were ever going to get another unset. I mean, that's the only thing that I've bought in Magic since I've been a dad was unstable cards. But
the unsets they're always fun.
But anyway, getting back to the main topic here. Also, anybody watching, if you know, the weather in my area is garbage right now. So if the stream goes out, if the internet goes out, there's nothing I can do about that. I apologize, but we're not going to take the time to go back over these books because it's awful. But getting
Because I'm already starting to forget everything I read.
I also won't be asked back because of doxing, so.
That's right. That's right. That's 100%. No, we're definitely gonna have you back to talk about the newer comics. I'll just legally have my name changed by then. It'll be fine. I'm just not gonna tell you what it is.
Oh, so it's fine.
Yeah, I'll
That's
just
fine.
you know
That's
I
fine.
just anybody asking, my name is Matt Jarbo.
Matt Jarbo.
Yeah,
That's what you went with out
yeah,
of all the options.
right.
Damn,
Right.
man.
Well, I want to be in the articles when they categorize the
Yeah.
all right next time. But now let's talk about my biggest disappointment with these books because I was actually pretty excited to read the Elder Dragons, and
Same. Yeah.
you know I was really excited to read the Elder Dragons, and I looked at it, and essentially I couldn't like they didn't even talk about Nicol Bolas.
No. They talked about, I mean, Chromium was in there, and then I forget the other one's name, but those were kind of the only two. And then the Dragon Whelp, but like,
Right. Which wasn't even a
that was
real
kind of
elder.
it.
Right.
No,
And
it wasn't an Elder Dragon. It was just,
they called it one, though. They said, you're an elder now. Like, you could just give that power to somebody. Like,
yeah,
well,
but
that
it
doesn't
was,
make it
yeah,
special.
no. So stupid.
Um, but there were originally 6 or 7 elder dragons? 6 with,
I want to say 6.
with Ugin, Nicol
Yeah,
Bolas, Palladium Moors, Chromium, and the other 2 that people only care about in Commander.
and the others.
Yeah,
Exactly.
the ones that people only care about for Commander colors.
Yeah. Yeah, they literally like just did not talk about half of them, if not more. So it was
No.
just kind of weird. And like the story with, because I did read the Elder Dragon one, and like the whole thing with the Dragon Whelp in particular did bother me. Not only did they call him an Elder Dragon when he's clearly not, but like it's just so stupid.
Right.
Like why did this guy have this dragon whelp that was clearly a asshole? Like why was he there? Like there's no reason for it.
Well,
So it was so stupid.
they intentionally wrote him to be like this prideful fool, and it made no sense. Like,
Yeah, but like unbelievably so.
right,
That
like
was my issue.
it made
Like
no sense. Like everybody's warning him, like, oh wow. Apparently, the worse the comics got, I just noticed at the top of the banner on this one it says includes a free booster pack with common.
hey, there you go. Now it's worth it.
There you go. Yeah. Go
If
ahead.
it was the Fallen Empires though, it wasn't.
That's right.
Like worst set ever, I think.
Yeah.
Pretty unanimously is Fallen Empires.
Between Fallen Empires and Homelands, I think is the debate.
Yeah, I think Homelands has a little bit more value. I think it has a $5 card.
No, okay. And again, for people that don't know what we're talking about, Magic the Gathering has an aftermarket value because of its existence in a very strange state. Everyone remembers trading Pokemon cards when they were kids. If you did that kind of thing, taking your binder to school and getting sent to detention for it. Having all of your teachers think that you're gambling. Pretty fantastic.
Yeah, right? What's with that?
Well, cards, man. Cards have a negative connotation when we were kids, remember?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure we got them banned at our school.
Our parents didn't have card games growing up except poker and blackjack.
Yeah.
Maybe
Fair.
rook. But, what was it that all of our grandmothers played? Bridge.
Yeah, bridge.
Yep.
But Magic the Gathering was it was a phenomenon, and people would carry their cards around in their backpacks and play in between classes and at lunch, and all the way back in the 90s. And there were even some stories from some Magic the Gathering content creators about the Magic historian, MTG Purple. I don't know if you followed him at
Hmm.
all, but he would talk about when he was starting to play in high school, and people back then, if you lost your deck, you were out 20, $30, and that was devastating.
Yeah.
Nowadays, if you lose a deck, that's $300 to $500 if it's top tier.
Well, that's only standard.
Jeez.
If you're talking modern, you get
Yeah,
into thousands.
right. And
Legacy, tens of thousands.
yeah, and then vintage, which is just $1 million, 60 cards.
Oh, it's one singular card is $10,000.
Yeah.
Seriously?
Didn't a
Black Lotus.
didn't a Lotus recently sell for 100,000 on an auction?
It might have. I don't keep up too much with the finance side of things. If I did, I would not buy the crap that I buy.
Yeah. But yeah, these
So.
little slivers of cardboard that are barely better quality than playing cards you buy in a deck of bicycle cards. Some of them come out of the foil packaging with a price tag of $100 or more on them.
Yep.
Jeez.
Right. You spend $3.
So they're a more legitimate form of currency than what we have from the Federal Reserve, is what you're saying.
No, because it's so fickle. You can open something one day and it's worth $5, and the next day it's worth 40, and the day after that it's worth 10 cents. It's not been that extreme,
Jeez.
really, but that's a pretty good idea of how
No,
it goes, right?
It definitely can happen. It's just so back and forth because of the playability of cards, things like that, and rarity, along with banning of cards and things like that. So it's
I was about to say nothing with the
one
word
thing on top
banding
of
on it.
another.
Nothing with the word banding on it is valuable.
Banding. No, no, you're right.
That's the
Worst
most
mechanic in history.
yeah. That's noted as the worst mechanic in history. As these cards come out,
Yep.
you have keywords, I guess it would be called, that would basically signify abilities of cards, and some of those keywords have been loved and some of them have been hated. But they introduce new ones for every single set almost, which is why the game is now the most
Yep.
complex game in history.
Yep.
Jeez.
It's not actually that complex.
I mean, it would probably
If
take.
you read the cards.
Well, the thing is if somebody started playing,
Yep.
today and went and bought one of these challenger decks or whatever, then
Yeah.
they wouldn't know how to deal with a cube that had cards from Ice Age, Fallen Empires, Homelands, because they would see these keywords
that's
that
fair,
they
I
had
guess.
never seen before.
Yeah, but the good thing about Magic is that, generally speaking, not always, but in a lot of cases, they if there is a keyword, they usually denote what it does.
Unless
And
it's
so
unless
at
it's
the very least, you have some idea.
well, unless it's accepted as a common keyword like trample, flying, haste.
Right. Yeah.
So I mean,
Yeah.
there is a nuance to it. Like it's kind of like starting to play Monopoly without a rule book.
That's
Okay.
fair.
So if I decided to go out and just try and play it, I couldn't just casually try and play this game.
No, you could,
If you had the right cards, you could.
and you would need someone who knew how to play the game to sit down and play with you.
Yeah.
That's really the
Okay.
way people learn how to play is you find someone who also plays. Two people who have never played the game would get sick of this game in 5 minutes. You really need that person sitting across to you saying, no, it's awesome, just wait.
I promise you'll get there.
It's like that asshole that stands behind you playing a video being like, no, we're about to get to the good part. We've been getting to the good part for 45
Yeah.
minutes. No, it's coming, I swear.
You keep skipping around looking for the timestamp.
one thing in the Fallen Empires book, I think we all read that one. What about the
Yeah,
Thalids?
I
that was
did
the
not
first one I read.
actually.
Oh, you did not read Fallen Empires? Okay. Ayrton,
No, I didn't get to Fallen Empires.
uh,
Yes.
Thalids, the little fungus creatures that gained sentience and were
Yeah,
considered.
what the hell?
Those were some of my favorite characters in the game. Those were some of my favorite creature types.
I, I was so confused.
Yeah. Thalids are creatures that in the game multiply by developing counters, and over a certain amount of time, the longer they stay in play, the more they can basically reproduce and create more of themselves. And that was pretty well depicted in this
Okay.
comic book, I think, except you still had no clue what the hell was going on because they tried to shove 6 characters in and spotlight them all in 22 pages.
Yeah, I was so confused. I mean, the one like magician dude that had been keeping himself alive when he turned into the weird lizardy demon thing, that was kind of cool visually, but other than that, I had no idea what anything was.
No, like, and
I'm
the
assuming all these different characters and words and stuff have some sort of meaning to the games, but
well, not actually. Like the 2 dragons in the Elder Dragons book had cards, but I don't think any of the other characters did. I don't even remember any of them even being mentioned. Um, the Fallen Empires book, I had no clue what was going on there. They name dropped a couple of themes of the of the card game, like the Ebon Hand and stuff like that. Um, but just from a lore perspective, all of these books that we looked at took place before the big, the big shift in Magic the Gathering lore when they depowered all the planeswalkers, right?
Yeah.
So the characters that you see in Magic now are nothing like this. There's one Elder Dragon still around. I don't know if they're going to kill him off in War of the Spark or not. They should.
Do you not know what happens yet?
No, go ahead and tell me.
Do you want me to spoil it, or do you want to read it yourself?
No, go ahead. I know
Okay.
Giddy. I know Giddy
It's not worth
dies.
reading if it's gonna be. Yeah, Gideon's super dead. Yeah, 100% dead. But no. So apparently, Jace and Ugin teamed up before any of the fight happened, and they were like, "Hey, we have to make everybody think we."
You broke up for a second. You dropped out. I think our guest has died.
I can hear him just fine.
I cannot. I think. There you are. What?
You still hear me? Okay.
Yeah, now I can.
That was weird. Well, regardless, Ugin and Jace teamed up and did this whole like illusionary thing, and basically he's locked away in a dimension that now Ugin is protecting to make sure that he doesn't get out, but he's not actually dead.
Okay.
They didn't want to kill him because he's already come back from the dead once. And so they were like, well, we can't do that again because he's just going to come back and it doesn't matter anyway. So we'll just lock him in a dimension and make sure that he's like well guarded or whatever. And so the whole fight, like a lot of it actually happened and all that, but the like final strike where it looks like they kill Nicol Bolas, they don't actually kill him.
Okay, so when we go back to the Eldrazi place, when we go back to Zendikar, the Gatewatch is going to release Bolas again as an Eldrazi this time.
Probably because they can't let anybody go.
So hold on, question.
Yeah.
So are these characters like do they appear on cards? And if they kill them off, are you like not allowed to use those cards anymore in like
No,
official
no,
games?
no.
No.
I'm like,
I mean,
I'm so confused.
They are on cards, so like
Okay.
you can get the cards for Nicol Bolas, Ugin, Jace, all these characters that we're mentioning. A lot of them do have actually, in a lot of
Multiple.
cases, very good cards, but multiple, yeah. And they like Magic just has this tendency not to want to shake things up, and so like they'll pretend to kill somebody, or they'll put somebody in like we're holding this person, they're fine, they can't do anything, and then they'll just all of a sudden bring them back. It's just they just do that because they don't want to kill anybody off. They finally killed Gideon, but like
He'll be back.
9 times he'll be back, like of course so.
It's worse than
But
comic
there's no
books.
way.
I guess I'm just confused. Like, what does that mean? Like, for actually playing the game, though, if
Well,
they like kill
with-
a
with
character.
With the game, the way I'd explain it is you have sets and you have cycles. So in a year, none of the cards that are being played right now will still be allowed to be played in the standard quote unquote format, the main format.
Some of them will, but they rotate.
Right. They'll
You're right.
they'll rotate out within a year and a
Okay.
half, 2 years. And
Yeah.
if that character is quote unquote dead, they just won't reprint a card that's playable with him.
Oh, okay.
But
So eventually his card now will just rotate out. So
right.
Gotcha.
But there are also things called legacy
but that's only
formats.
standard.
Right. I was about to get
Yeah.
into that. There are also things called legacy
Yeah,
formats, like Commander, Modern, Legacy, Vintage, and those all have their own banned list, but they don't have a rotating list. So any card that exists within the spectrum of that format is allowed to be played regardless of the story.
Okay.
The lore is really just an added bonus. I would be willing to venture that 75% plus Magic the Gathering players don't give two craps about the lore.
Oh yeah,
You know,
100% correct.
most people that play Magic, I think, are actually playing Magic to try and make money, which is funny.
Yeah.
It's the biggest scam I've ever seen. You can open these cards and get $100 card. Statistically, you're going to have to give us $300 for that $100, but you know, who cares? But there's a lot of
So it's like
nuance.
playing lotto scratch offs at a gas station.
That's exactly what it is.
That's exactly it.
Okay.
But most of the time, you buy a whole book of tickets or a box of Magic the Gathering packs. You don't expect to get anything by buying one pack. Sometimes you get lucky, but for the most part, you just buy the whole box and get whatever good is in it, which is still sometimes nothing.
Yeah. Many a times I will say it is nothing.
Oh man,
I've
but
had plenty of experience opening nothing.
you know the thing you just touched on though, with them not wanting to get rid of any characters, I think it's a stark contrast to what they did in the mid 2000s with the mending and the rift and everything, because they got rid of 15 years worth of lore for these flashy new characters that have never been hand drawn on cards. They've always been digitally painted, and
Right.
they've been so protective of these characters. It doesn't make any sense to me that they just washed away, because Phyrexia. I mean, we saw Phyrexia in the Antiquities War. Phyrexia was
Mhm.
so good. It was so good. Like it was a horror movie personified in an entire plane of existence.
It was awesome.
The book The Thran. Did you ever read that one? The actual novel.
I did start it, but I didn't get very far.
The story of Yawgmoth. I mean, it's a tragic story. You honestly start to
It
feel
is,
bad
yeah.
for the main bad guy in Magic the Gathering.
Yeah.
And that's why I think I was a lot more excited going into this than I was when I got to doing the show today, because I looked back at this stuff and I was like, there was so much potential here. If you would have given this to a good writer, but it feels like that the license was just picked up by Acclaim, and they just made some comics to make comics and try and get some sales. And
Yeah, I think that's what annoyed me the most, because Fallen Empires was the first one I read, because the way they downloaded uh, into the reader, and like I saw so much potential for such a cool story, but it only being 2 issues, like what are you really going to do with that?
well, there are plenty of good stories that are told within 2 issues. You usually have to
Oh,
have some more of an
yeah,
established character at that point, though.
right.
And I think that was the downfall of most of these books. If these books would have all had one extra issue where it introduced the main character and the main conflict, I think all of them would have been more redeemable. You know, if you had just
I
put
think I agree with that.
if you just put one issue explaining who the character I'm supposed to be paying attention to even is, because most
Yeah.
people, I think, and this is just my opinion, but I think most people open up a comic book and the first character they see is who they think they're supposed to be paying attention to. And that is definitely not the case in any of these.
There, I couldn't find which character you were supposed to be paying attention to. Like, it jumped around so much.
Right. And like you said, they tried to get so much in so little. That was the main point. You know, but again, Magic the Gathering has always basically thrived out of bookstores and card shops or comic book
Yeah.
shops. Because in the 90s, if you asked me where I thought a future in a hobby was, I would have told you comic books over Magic the Gathering all day, every day. Because, I mean, in the 90s, you had lots and lots and lots of great comic books like the X-Men. You had Avengers, you had Batman, all of these things that you still have today, but they were so much more respectable and so much more valuable as collector's items. But then you had the inevitable foil cover crash at the end of the 90s, and Magic the Gathering basically took a foothold as the premier hobby in most what used to be comic shops. Now, most comic shops are comic shops second to being baseball card and Magic the Gathering and Pokemon shops.
It's I would have agreed with you there. Like, I still like reading the old 90s, like X-Men and all that stuff. They're
Oh man, yeah, Lynn
fun
Wein.
and a little insane.
Well, I mean that's the Dark Phoenix saga, the '80s and the '90s. Lynn Wein, Chris Claremont. I mean that was the best
Yeah.
time to read X-Men. And
Oh yeah.
these comics were definitely written in that vein, but they don't have the familiarity with the characters. Even though I've played the game and I
Right.
recognized most of the names and the characters, you don't have enough of a story in these books to appreciate it. Like I had to look at it from the perspective of okay, I had to look at it through your eyes. Okay, I've never seen a Magic the Gathering card. Is this a good comic? No. Honestly, the best part about these books is the forward at the end. The the written little blurbs that they put out about the game and the story.
Yeah, I just skipped over those.
Yeah, most people do, but that's literally the best part of this, and that's sad. Um,
Yeah.
and it kind of goes into a discussion that I'm trying to plan for next week, but I want to get a few different people on, and I want to discuss the viability of continuing on with legacy characters in the format that we are. Like Kevin, you said you haven't read comics for any real depth, but you're
No.
familiar with the
No.
character of Wolverine, I'm guessing.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay, well Wolverine's been around for well over 30 years. Um,
Hmm.
Batman turned 80 this year, last year, something like that. I'll just posit it to you real quick. Do you think that there's a viability in keeping a character around for that length of time? Like, can you imagine if Jace is still around and Magic is still around in 80 years and Jace is still the figurehead for it? Do you think there'll
Um,
be any story left to
it,
tell
I
with that character?
well, and that's the risk that you run, I think, because on one hand, there's the argument that you're getting people attached to this character that's now been fronting whatever it is that you're fronting, whether it's a story, a game, whatever. In
Right.
this case, Magic. You look at Jace. People are attached to Jace. A lot of people love him. A lot of people hate him just because he has been the figurehead for so long. And people like that. I mean, some people don't, some people do, but a lot of people do, from my understanding. And so you run that risk if you kill Jace off, if you get rid of Jace, okay, you just pissed a lot of people off. But you also have to think there is no more story to tell. So like what's the use in keeping a character around for that long? And at some point, I think everybody keeps up and thinks, okay, you're just keeping this person around to market. Like that's all that this is. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think you should at some point kill somebody. I mean, a character doesn't stay around forever. They're not, they don't live forever. You should get rid of them at some point. But I think finding that point is one different for every perspective medium. I think, Magic in particular, Nicol Bolas is thousands of years old, whatever. But like he's a dragon, it fits his character.
And he's
Jace is not. You know
right.
what I mean?
And they
So
don't
like
they
it
don't
makes sense to kill him off sooner.
yeah. Well, they don't abuse Bolus either. I mean, I make fun of the fact
Yeah.
that he's always been the bad guy in Magic. But
Yeah.
the thing
Yeah. Yeah.
is you'll get 2 or 3 sets where he's got machinations working in the background, but you have no clue what they are. So it could be
Right.
anything.
Yeah.
And you've got a
Yeah. Yeah.
different big bad for this set. And then they'll bring Bolus
Yeah.
back for a little while, and he's menacing, but he's done so much that there's a little bit of story left to tell, and then he'll go away again. Like now, they put him in a tomb. Well, we have no idea how he's going to get out of that, but we're sure he is.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But I don't know. I mean, I really do think it is very, very dependent on like multiple different factors. So for instance, something like Batman, like again, I know very, very little about Batman. I like Batman, but I don't have enough knowledge to really say 100% on any of this. But like if you've got a ton of people that love Batman, not only from the business like market standpoint are you going to want to keep him around, but like you're going to want to see these people happy. You want to tell a bigger story. You want to do all that stuff. But you do have to ask that question, when is the story done? I mean, when have you told all there is to tell?
How many times can I tell his origin story with one different character?
Yeah. Oh God.
Well, and I would bring up the what was it, Batman Beyond, the cartoon from the late 90s,
right?
Yeah.
Early 2000s, where you have the old grumpy Bruce Wayne and like a new Batman coming on. Like
right.
you still had Batman, but it was different.
Well, and that's gonna. I mean, we're going a little bit off the rails here.
But
I don't want to drag Kevin into a comic discussion, but that's. I mean, the same kind of question comes up with Magic the Gathering, and that's why I bring it up. Is like you said, how long are we going to keep Jace when we just dumped Urza before we even told half of his story? How many more times are we going to get a Jace that's been mind wiped by some bad guy? Because we've had it 3 times now.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. But like, I think on the story end of things, I think they're just afraid to kill anybody off because they know so many people love certain people in the game. Well, and so like, I mean, they just killed off Gideon, which is like obviously kind of a big move. But there wasn't really a big love for Gideon, from my understanding.
No, and Elspeth was
I don't think it's
the white planeswalker.
Yeah, so like that was kind of a safe play. Like, yeah, Gideon's a big character, but it really wasn't a like, oh no, not Gideon. Like, who cares? It's Gideon.
Well, and then look at Garruk. They just forgot that he existed. It seems.
he's just chilling, trying to kill a bunch of people, and nobody knows where he is. Like,
Right.
I mean, I'm pretty sure they've said they'll revisit him, and of course they will. But like, they just like if there's any love for a character, it seems like they're gonna do all they can to at least give themselves the option in the future to bring them back. And it's like sometimes you just gotta kind of piss people off,
Right.
and like that's fine. Like deal with it. Just do it.
Well, eventually the people you're pissing off aren't the ones buying your product anymore. You have to
Yeah.
move with your market a little bit, I think. And
Yeah.
I think that's what they did when they killed off the pre-rending or pre-mending planeswalkers and changed the power level of the
Yeah.
spark and all that. But I mean
Yeah.
that's some deep lore. But I'm gonna put
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm gonna posit a little bit of a controversial take here. Um, I don't think that they're scared or anything like that. I think the talent level and the mentality of your average, Wizards employee and executive, if you catch my drift,
Yeah.
has a lot to do with the quality of the storytelling and it's declining. Because when it was a bunch of old nerds running Wizards of the Coast, then you actually got three novels, you got deep lore, you got really good, what is it, flavor text on the cards and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Nowadays, you get one shoddy book, if you can call it that, and you
Yeah.
get these web blurbs, but everything as far as the game is concerned is being made Puritan almost, I think is the word.
Okay.
You've got a lot of virtue going into the game where that's not the audience of the player base, but
Yeah.
it's the audience of the creators, if that makes sense. So the people in charge of
Right.
Magic the Gathering, I think, have lost touch with what their actual player base wants as far as a story goes. And that's just my hot take on it. It's not a hand of God opinion, but I
So
think
what do you think when they brought Richard Garfield back for Dominaria?
I think that was
How do
probably
you
one.
feel about that then?
I think that was probably one of the best moves they've ever made.
Do you think that the story of that set, I don't know it super well, so I'm genuinely asking, but do you think that the story of that set excelled what has been going on around this time?
I
Aren't you supposed to be the expert here?
No, I mean,
he
I'm the game expert. I'm
yeah
not the lore expert.
he buys all the cards and puts them into pretty binders. I read the books and know the stories. I am the one who reads. But Dominaria, you had twofold of a good thing with Dominaria. You had Richard Garfield
Okay.
coming back on, and
Yeah.
he didn't really speak a lot on that, so I don't know if he was happy with
He didn't.
the
Yeah.
decisions that were made
Yeah, yeah.
because usually he's very big in promoting, the things that he's doing. But
Right.
he did come back, and Dominaria was the pre-existing main plane. See, back in the day with Magic the Gathering, you had one plane of existence, and that was Dominaria. I mean, they would go other planes, but that was where the story was happening with Dominaria. And you would get
Right.
15, 16 different sets, all based around Dominaria. And now every set we change planes. So you had a wealth of things like the return of the Land of War elves.
Yeah.
I mean that's huge.
Oh, it
That's
is. Yeah, yeah.
that it's the most iconic green card in Magic, in my opinion. I think is Land of War elf. If you play
It's definitely
green,
up there.
you've played Land of War elves.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
but
most likely, yeah.
but you had that wealth to go back on, and you had the name Richard Garfield to back it up. Um, the story, again, I don't think that it was on tier with some of the story from the older sets. Like again, for
Yeah.
anybody just tuning in, these comics that we're looking at on screen, we're not even going through them, and that should really tell you something. These are not good books, but that should not scare you away from looking into the story of Magic the Gathering, because it is a fantastically deep and well thought out and well played story. Like there is so much that has been told up until, honestly, I'd say until we started going back to Ravnica every year.
Oh yeah,
You know,
honestly,
you know, I
well,
think
yeah,
that
because Innistrad came right before
right,
the
and
return, right? And
yeah,
Innistrad was like the best set. I mean, for a lot of people, the best set. Maybe not
it's
always,
the best
but
modern set. Yeah,
yeah, modern set. That's definitely a fair assessment. So like, yeah, kind of. We just shouldn't have gone back to Ravnica.
no, no. I mean, the Ravnica was a unicorn, and it was lightning in a bottle. I mean, it was a crafted
Yeah,
story of the 10 two-color combinations that you can make out of the 5 colors of Magic, and
yeah.
to try and recapture that lightning in a bottle was dumb.
Oh yeah.
I mean, Ravnica was
I
also
think
very well
yeah.
loved. I mean, before Innistrad, it was the favorite set of modern era.
It's still my favorite, honestly. I love it. Um, but I will say, even like and now we are talking a little bit more modern than the comics that we have just read, but like the stories of some of the more modern sets still haven't been great. Like
No,
Champions of Kamigawa, and like that whole block, that was like a clusterfuck. Like that was bad.
yeah,
I
but
mean,
Onslaught and stuff like that, Onslaught, Judgment, Torment, those were
yeah,
fantastic stories.
they were. You're right. But it did fluctuate. Like I do think even in the old sets, I think it started off very, very strong.
Right,
So Antiquities, like that era was great.
right,
In terms of lore, I do think there was a lot there. Again, not through the comics, but elsewhere.
right.
But I think later on, the story kind of ebbed and flowed pretty heavily. Like we had some really, really good stories come from some of the sets, but then a lot of them were also still pretty bad. Like it just went back and forth.
Yeah, and I think it really based on, and Ayrton, you talk too much. But
Ah,
I think the
hey,
stories
I'm
be
doing my best here.
I think the stories being good or bad has a lot to do with how much the creator actually loves what he's working on.
Oh
And
yeah.
you know, if you're given a pile of garbage as a storyline to work with, like Kamigawa, I mean, Umazawa's Jeet was the only
Yeah.
good thing to come out of Kamigawa, or not.
Yeah.
Sensei's Divining
Yeah.
Top and Umazawa's Jeet.
Yeah. I
Those are
guess
two
so.
cards out of the set, but I think.
Heartbeat of Spring was okay.
Oh wait, that's the one that lets you. No, I'm thinking of something
It's
else.
double mana.
Yeah.
It's a double mana thing. I
Um,
actually pulled it the other day in the Crack a Pack, which you can go watch on our channel right now if
link
you're
down in the
interested.
description.
Oh, some shameless plugging right
Shameless plug.
That's okay. I
Sorry,
deleted it
had
when
to
he
throw it
doxed
in
me.
there. Oh, there we go. There we go.
Unfollowed him on Twitter and everything. There's no more. Um, but no, you know, the storyline for the books and the lore has always kind of had a Dungeons and Dragons feel, and I think that after we moved into the modern era, I think we lost a lot of that. And you
Yeah.
know, I I don't know for sure, but I think a lot of it does have to do with the modern management of Wizards of the Coast and what they're being allowed to do with their IP, as opposed to
Yeah.
what the people actually want. Because
Well, like recently they took this like Avengers standpoint. It's like they were trying to play off of the Avengers or something with the Oath of the Gatewatch and all.
hmm
Like, hey, we're now super friends. We all work together. We're
yes,
gonna be awesome. And it's like, okay, we have seen this movie before,
yeah,
I think. And it's like it was just a gimmick. You know what I mean? It was all marketing. And
Right.
like, I wonder how much, like you're talking about, how much of this came from marketing to say, hey, we need to do something like this. So write this.
Yeah.
And they did that. Like they had to.
Right.
And I don't know if that's true. Again, that's all speculation, as you said. But like, I would not be surprised if a lot of the decisions were made solely based on the marketing side of things.
Oh no, absolutely. And it's kind of apparent when that's at its worst, because I think that's when the card stock is bad. I think that's when the
Yeah.
foils curl. I think that's when
Yep.
you go down from getting a book in a fat pack to getting a novel to getting a blurb.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. They used to give you the whole book when you would buy 9 packs of cards. You would just get the book as a bonus to
Yeah.
read the story. And
Yeah.
now they give you a chapter sometimes. I don't even know if they still do that anymore. I haven't bought a fat
I
pack
don't
in so
even know
long.
if they do that. I was wondering.
Yeah, but like, how are you going to get people excited about the story of this game? But I think we've already touched on 75% of the people that play this game don't care about the story. And I would be willing to
Yeah.
guess that 75% of the people that like the story didn't play the game.
Yes, I think.
Well, I mean,
I definitely agree with the first half of that statement. I don't know about the second half.
I don't think that the people would get into like, if you like the story, getting into the game isn't going to give you more of the story. Is really what I'm getting at there. Like, it's not going
That's
to
true. Yeah.
extrapolate on the storyline. And once you realize you're spending $500 every 2 years to stay in a game where you could just buy a $5 book, I think you're just going to buy the $5
Yeah.
book and get the part you enjoy out of it. And
Fair. Yeah.
we could have just puzzled it out that there's just no money in the lore, really, unless you can generate ad revenue from putting it on a website in the form of like webisodes. So,
Yeah. Which,
know.
I mean, there are people who just tell the lore on YouTube. And I mean, I don't know what kind of viewership they get, but like, I guess they're getting ad revenue from it. But like, I will say a testament to the lore being that there are people that just go through the lore on YouTube and that's their sole purpose for being a channel, and they do get views. I mean, I
Well,
know
yeah.
I was watching the War of the Spark lore very recently, in fact, and there were hundreds of thousands of views, which for Magic is perfectly reasonable. And like, I mean, it clearly some people are interested in it, but I do kind of think that it's like it's definitely the least important part in my opinion. That being said, I am the player side of things, so that's probably why I would say that.
All right. Well, and I think I want to apologize to my co-host real quick. I had no idea that we would just go off on a
Yeah,
nerd
we're
tangent.
tangenting real hard. I'm
Yeah.
so sorry.
Oh no, it's fine.
Hey, I haven't gotten fired yet, so.
Oh shit, that's right. I still got about a half hour. Don't push it.
It's okay. This whole stream's been canceled anyway, so anything he says, it doesn't actually matter.
It never matters. It never matters when I say anything anyway. What are you talking about? But no, I don't know. The storyline, I think, has basically gone the way of these comic books. Like, this is what the story has turned into. The the people writing the lore for modern day Magic read these books and they were like, so this is what it's supposed to be like.
Oh god.
Yeah.
No.
Right.
I hope that now that War of the Spark is like concluded, my hope is that they start like pushing the envelope a little bit, because this was the big conclusion to everything that's been going on for quite a while. And so I mean, they did bring novels back for this one, so maybe they'll do something in that line. I don't know, but I hope that with the lore, they not only put it in a medium that makes sense, not just like, hey, here's a little article about what's going on, but like an actual novel. I want details. I want everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I do hope they push the envelope a little bit more as they used to, and give a little bit more just like character development and things like that, because I feel like recently, in particular, with all of the main story characters like Jace and Gideon and all those, the big planeswalkers, they were like, hey, we have all these cool characters, but we have no backstory for anybody. So
Right.
let's do a set around it. And then they did Magic Origins. And it's like, okay, but you're focusing a set around all of these characters, not just one of them. And so you're splitting everything up and giving less detail about these individual characters than you could have.
Right.
And so I just feel like they handled it so poorly. Like they could have done so much more. And I
Well-
hope that they get there now that they have finished out this whole story arc.
Well, good storytelling, and I'll kind of counterpoint on that. I'm a
Sure.
I'm a Song of Ice and Fire fan. The books more than the show, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm also a fan of, like we've talked about, the old sets and the Weatherlight set, the 3-block Weatherlight set. I mean, look at how
Sure.
many people were on that boat.
That's fair.
I mean,
That's fair.
Dominaria kind of rang true to it because you got their legacy of their
Yeah.
kids and their replacements and whatnot. Squeeze still kicking around.
Yeah. Hey.
But
So
Yeah.
your argument is that they have done it correctly
in the
in
past,
the past with Weatherlight.
and other people do it all the time. Like a Song of Ice and Fire novel is literally written in
Right.
almost a scenic way, as every chapter is based
Sure.
around one character, and they still come out
Well, and I think
and mesh together well.
I may not have. I think my issue is more with Magic Origins in particular, not so much the way they did Magic Origins.
Oh,
I
no.
do think that they did kind of I think they did kind of realize that they screwed up though, and that's part of where Origins kind of came from. I feel like they just needed some backstory, and so that's where that set came from.
Yeah,
I
but-
think the difference between that and Weatherlight was actually like just an established set. This was where the story was going. These are the characters we want, so we need to build this up a little more. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Well, it's
Hold-
you, go ahead.
real quick, Becky, you're not getting my position here. Quit trying.
She's been trying to depose him. For,
Becky, you can have mine. It's fine.
But one thing,
I will destroy every single peep in the universe. I will Thanos snap the peeps out of existence.
That only gets half of them, dude.
no, he's gonna leave the he's gonna leave the ones on sticks.
Yeah.
Those will be the only peeps on a stick. But no, what a Magic Origins, I think their major screw up was when you got done telling a backstory for a character, the character's not supposed to be more shallow than it already was.
Right? Yes, I agree. Yes,
You know, when
it
you
was
tell
ridiculous.
right, and I mean, the gimmick was fun, the flip cards, but
Yeah, I mean that's cool.
you
I'm fine with
know,
that.
I like the way they did it in card form, but again, it just they need to go back to doing what they were doing when they did the old novels, and that could just be me being a dinosaur, because we all know I'm an old boomer. But
Yeah.
I think they need to go back to contracting artists or writers that want to write these books instead of just having staff writers slop something together. And that's not a dig at somebody who gets a job as a staff writer, but if you're just getting drivel all
Yeah,
day,
but-
every day that you don't care about and you're just making
Yeah.
a paycheck on it, it starts to show.
So
Yeah,
I'll say this.
the
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say, yeah, listening to you guys, the lore on this sounds so much deeper than what you could have a staff writer adequately do with it.
Yeah, 100%. And my point with this, I'm glad you said this because it brings up a really interesting thing. I think so many people started working at Magic the Gathering in the last, I'll say 10 years, but I don't know exactly, solely
about right.
because they played the game and loved the game.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were like, okay, dream job, work for Magic or for Wizards, excuse me, whatever. And so they finally got their dream job. Wizards was like, there's an influx of people that want to be hired. Let's hire them. Let's do all this cool stuff. Give them their dream job. But they're not actually good at their job.
No.
Like, they like the game. They love the game. And by all means, that's fantastic. But that doesn't mean you can write a great story for the game. That
No.
just means you love the game.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
So,
I mean, go ahead.
oh, that was it. That was
No,
it.
I think that a lot of industries, I mean, even myself, when I've been in interviews for certain jobs, they will not hire someone at certain places if you have, a deep rooted love for what you're working with, because you can't be objective about it. You can't, like,
Yeah.
if you love Magic the Gathering and you got a job at Wizards of the Coast and you were part of design, okay, you're going to have a hard time looking at your card after having played this game for so long and finally seeing something that you created printed on that blue core cardstock, and you look down at it. You're going to have a hard time being objective and saying, well, this is just shit.
Yeah.
And I think that's the problem that,
Yeah.
I think that really drives home what you're talking about. Like, we,
Yeah.
we really have no recourse for fixing that either as a fan base, because again, most people don't care about the lore and the standard day-to-day play group. If you ask somebody
Right.
about Urza at a Friday Night Magic, 90% of the people at that Friday Night Magic are going to be like, "You mean the headless guy from Unstable?"
Which
And
is such a shame.
yeah, I mean, we never even got an authentic Planeswalker card for him.
Yeah, you're right.
I'd love to go back in time and get a set of old school Dominaria Planeswalkers. Like, I want to see Yawgmoth and Urza on cards, and not just the Blind Seer.
I would love that.
Not
Yeah,
just the
yeah.
Blind Seer. We came close. We got Teferi and we got Karn. So I mean, there's already a precedent for it.
Well, and Teferi does time magic, right? So maybe he can jump us back a little ways.
There you go. Yeah, take us back to when things were good.
That's like his gimmick, right?
Time manipulation. Yeah. He encapsulates.
Yeah, because like at the academy, he like encapsulated it and made sure time was slower or whatever.
Yeah, the time stopped for the academy essentially. It was Groundhog's Day there.
Yep.
Bill Murray nodded and said everything was good.
Yeah. And then
So
was
if
like,
they were
cool,
to
I
make
got you.
So if they were to make a movie out of it, you would have Bill Murray play that character.
I'd have Bill Murray play Urza. It wouldn't be good casting for anything, but it would be hilarious.
No.
I want him to dress like he dresses when he goes to play golf, too. No robes or wizard hats. Plaid pants only.
God.
Hey, I can rock some plaid pants.
All right, you're fired.
Hey, it was going to happen one of these days.
But no, now that we've discussed the story on that, one thing that I did notice and take away from these books is that, like I said, they're made by Acclaim, the entertainment studio, and the majority of them includes a free card or pack or something like that. So I think it's safe to say that these were more gimmicks, and that's not to say that the new ones aren't. Like, when we read the new ones were definitely gimmicks to sell booster packs to people that read comic books. But from my experience with those, I do believe they're much more well written and well thought out. And IDW was a fairly respectable company for a long time. Now, they've recently run into some money issues, so they may be going bankrupt. So we'll see how that plays out. And they've had a little bit of a kerfuffle in the comics community. Like you said, you're not a comics guy. There's a movement of open market, just renegades, for lack of a better word, that are publishing their own comics on crowdfunding websites, and the industry professionals are not too keen on it. It's been deemed Comicsgate. If you're familiar with the trash fire that was Gamergate,
Oh yeah.
so we have Comicsgate now. So good
Because
comics.
everything
So-
has to be a gate.
So, not to harp on this, but the argument is that big time creators who are making money creating don't like that other people are also creating.
Yes.
Well,
That's the argument.
well, the argument is that big time creators that are making money creating aren't making good money creating because companies don't pay shit anymore. And
And because other people are creating, which is
when you step away
deferring
from that
the money.
industry, well, when you step away from the industry and you realize that somebody like Ethan Van Sciver, a 26-year comic book veteran, can put
Yeah.
out a comic book about a cartoon frog and make $750,000 on one issue. Some guy wrote his first comic book and made $77,000 on the crowdfund for it.
Ooh,
Yeah,
interesting.
but then 43 professionals try to do the same thing and couldn't break 35K. And it
Sorry,
just,
that's funny.
yeah, well,
is.
it is, and it's the reason that so many people are going to this, because I don't care where you fall on the political spectrum. I can get along with anybody, but when you
Yeah.
are a company, I shouldn't know your politics. Companies shouldn't have politics. They
Yeah.
definitely shouldn't have an agenda that they push by publishing crap like Captain Marvel. Did you get to see that trash fire, by the way?
No,
Don't,
I have not yet.
don't. Just
I know.
watch it. Just watch Endgame.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen Endgame yet either. But
Well, Ant-Man does crawl up Thanos' ass and grows big to beat him. So
well, now I'm in.
the
Yeah.
internet was right.
Yeah, that was the one way they could win from Infinity War. What Doctor Strange said, we only win in one scenario. That's
Yeah,
the
yeah.
scenario.
Yeah.
That's the scenario.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Paul Rudd.
That sounds like my kind of scenario. Let's do
And
it.
and Thanos really likes sweet corn.
Ooh, too much. You're hired again, so I can fire you later. But no, the final thoughts on these books is that they're garbage. The- I think they had potential, but I just don't think that potential was well executed. Like
Yeah.
I said, if you're going to read some old Magic the Gathering comics, I would suggest reading the Antiquities War and stopping.
Yeah.
Because that's the only one that even falls somewhat in line with this, historical counterpart. But also going into this, remember that these are kind of a piece of history. These come from a time when Magic the Gathering wasn't the only card game going on. These come from a time before you had, these came from a time when dual lands were $10, and that was freaking outrageous. You get a pack fresh dual land for $10, but you could also get 4 packs for $10. What?
Yeah. Man, how nice would it have been to have known back then?
Oh, dude, if I could go back in time, I would tank the economy of Magic the Gathering.
I know, right? Like, just buy every single dual land ever.
Yeah, I just have a cabinet full of what is it? What's that blue card that everybody wants?
Ancestral Recall?
No, the counter spell that you discard a blue card.
Oh, Force of Will.
Yeah, I would just buy all the Force of Wills and take them out of circulation.
Oh, yeah. 100%. It's an uncommon.
Yeah,
What is that? And
Yeah,
alliances,
I
like
would just
what?
open alliance packs and trade all my rares for Force of
Just get
Wills.
as many Force of Wills as possible.
All of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would just buy out all of them
Yep.
and come back, and there is no legacy or vintage. Well, we just can't beat these aggro decks, so we just broke the format. Oh well, look at this card that I have here. But no, I don't know. I really apologize for having you guys read these. I feel bad,
You
but
should.
at the same time, I think the new tagline of this show is we read it so you don't have to. You know, um, because of the garbage that I can find some redeeming value in. If I can't find redeeming value in a certain book, then there's no point. You shouldn't
Yeah.
you really shouldn't even bother picking it up unless you just want to own it. Maybe you should buy it
and
to give to somebody you don't like.
and
There you go.
you know, typically even with like books that we don't like, we can at least think of some way to recommend it to a specific type of person.
Yeah.
The only recommendation I can think of is Guantanamo Bay inmates.
Yeah.
That's really all I got.
Yeah. If you're on death row or you've committed some heinous crimes, then they should make you read these at least once a week.
Should
You
make
earned
all those magic judges read them.
it.
Ooh. Ooh.
There you
yeah.
go.
Yeah.
That's torture.
How committed are you to this position?
I was talking about the kitty diddler ones.
Uh
For every kid they touch, they have to read through each
Oh, no.
story once.
no, that's where they get the gas. But in Minecraft,
Well, that's beforehand. They have to read the books first, and it's like a staged
yeah.
punishment.
Did anything ever come out of that? I know. Oh, by the way, I did hear Hambly his lawsuit got settled.
Really?
The quartering, yeah, his lawsuit got settled. He got a public
I
apology
did not
from
know that.
Matt Fantastic. Yep.
Huh. I didn't know that. Did you see where Yuya Watanabe got caught cheating?
No.
Do you know who he is?
Yes.
Okay, I figured you would. I mean, pro player for over 10 years.
Yeah.
Hall of Famer. They caught him with allegedly marked sleeves.
Ooh.
And so they have banned him for 6 months and stripped his Hall of Fame title.
Oh.
Yeah.
Man. Now that's a
That's
tough one
big.
for me because Mark Sleeves, man. That's
Well, yeah.
that's a hard call because I mean, unless they have, and I'd have to look into it, but they may have very strict
Yeah.
regulations on the types of sleeves you can use and stuff like that. But any Magic the Gathering player that's bought many Magic the Gathering players that have bought card sleeves, that's a professor.
The professor.
Yeah, Tolarian Academy riff. That's my terrible impression.
That's
But
great.
when you buy sleeves, as soon as you get done sleeving up your deck, technically you have marked sleeves.
Well, yeah. So, according to the images that I saw, I think the deck that he was playing, it was at the Mythic Championship like a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Apparently, he was playing Tron in Modern, and it looked like he had 3 of his 4 Tron lands, like 4 playset, obviously, whatever.
Mhm.
He had them marked with very specific bottom right corner. It looked like very specific markings
Okay.
for each of the Tron lands. Now, that being said, if that's true, they did the right thing. I'm totally fine with that.
Right.
Because a cheater, I don't care what level you are, that doesn't fly.
No.
However, we're talking about a Hall of Famer that's been in the game over 10 years, and this is a big pro player. Like, you got to be damn sure that he was intentionally marking his sleeves, because if he wasn't and they did this, that's awful. Like,
Well,
this dude has committed a large portion of his life to your game, and you might have just banned him for an accident.
Well,
You know what I mean?
look at T Woo. They did the same thing to him.
They did. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
but I mean that actually kind of segues into another topic that I've been thinking about as far as Magic goes. Do you think that they'll ever integrate Arena to basically catalog all the cards and just hold digital tournaments?
Well, mm,
Like,
I mean, they're starting to phase that in. But I do think they're gonna. I don't think they can do that 100% because they have to, for the players out there who have like paper collections but do not do the online stuff, they're gonna have to appeal to them. And because their marketing department apparently runs the entire show, like they have to continue marketing their paper products as well as their online products.
Well,
so
no.
if it happens,
I'm not saying that. Like, I'm saying if you have a vintage tournament and you have to own
Yeah.
the deck in vintage cards to play,
okay, yeah.
you walk up, you register your deck, and then someone
Oh, I see what
programs
you're
your
saying.
deck
I
into
see
the
what you're saying.
computer and gives you your seat, and that's the deck you're playing.
Maybe.
Because
I mean, that would certainly solve
eliminate
a lot of issues.
Well, that would eliminate the cheating and the deck stacking, and
Yeah.
you know,
It would. I mean, maybe. I don't know.
that's
I could definitely see it.
I mean, I think that's really the only viable way to maintain this format if this is going to keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Because modern, like I said, nowadays it's getting to where Legacy was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And there's so much money in it. There's so many people doing it, and you know, at a certain point, you're gonna have to figure out a way to stop cheating from happening because it's such a disruption to the entire community.
Oh
And
absolutely.
the allegation of cheating can be detrimental in and of itself.
Well, and I think it is right now with Yuya because he is such a pro. I mean, he's such a top level player. Like anybody supporting him, like they're gonna feel pretty bad about playing the game right now. You know what I mean? Just because they're accusing him of cheating.
Right.
And like, I don't know. I do think that like going to an online system like you're talking about would definitely solve that issue. At least on one end. I mean, there's always somebody always somewhere is going to find some way to do something.
Right.
And I know that's a very, very general statement, but like you could honestly, if there was a judge who was in charge of typing things in, type something in wrong, maybe he gets accused of cheating. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
there's all that kind of thing. But I do think that bottlenecks it for sure. And so,
right.
you know,
and it takes it off the player. The player doesn't get punished for it. Yeah, you can fire an official and get another one in this place for next week.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
And I mean, that's terrible. Nobody should lose their job over a mistake. That's not what I'm saying.
No,
if somebody gets caught like literally cheating for their buddy, it's really on that official at that point for.
It is. Yeah.
And let me just put it like this. Aren't they supposed to inspect these decks before you sit down to play anyway? How come this, if it was so apparent that he was marking his cards, why wasn't it caught on inspection?
Well, I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know if it was like they just didn't deck check him prior or, you know, what happened there. From my understanding, a judge was called on his deck by his opponent. But by that time, I'm fairly certain he had already top 8'd. Like he was in the top 8.
Right.
So like, I don't know if it happened during the tournament and like they didn't see it in the original or what, but something happened there that was really, really fishy. So,
but I mean, that's the thing. Like, if Magic is going to keep having this kind of bad press like they've been having with, you know, and let's be really honest. Magic hasn't had a lot of good press. I mean, they're starting to get some of their consumer confidence back. War of the Spark apparently
they're working on it.
War of the Spark is apparently selling really well. Dominaria sold really, really well. Ultimate Masters was a blowout. I mean, everybody loved it.
Yep.
But
there has been so much bad stuff lately, even with War of the Spark with the Mythic Edition. Like, that was like a huge disaster.
Oh, well,
I mean,
Rudy Rudy put out a response video saying that he was no longer gonna like follow specialty direct to market stuff anymore. Like
Yeah.
he said that his announcement on it, from the information that he got, even though he immediately like rectified what he had said and corrected himself, he
Yeah.
had gotten like death threats and stuff like that. It was pretty bad.
Yeah. It was a big issue, but no, I mean you're right. A lot of the press in the last few years, in particular, has been pretty bad. But we have started to see the incline. Like we're seeing at least every once in a while, in between all the bad stuff, we're occasionally getting something good. And so my hope is obviously that starts to take over more. But if they keep pulling stuff like the Mythic Edition, and if they're not doing deck checks like they should, and they find people cheating midway through a tournament, like things like that are going to keep happening. And you can't, that's on them. Like they have to do something about this and be more proactive instead of just being like, ah, well, that sucks, we'll refund you. Or, you know, like that's patch job. That's not fixing the issue.
Right. No, you're dead right on that, and I think that a lot of it's going to come from the top down. Like I think management needs to come down and stifle a lot of what's happening with the marketing, with the with the people involved in the store. We need to stop banning people over stuff they say outside of the realm of Magic. We need to,
Oh yeah.
we need to worry about putting out a quality product instead of what gender and or race the character that was drawn is. Um,
Oh, that's
I
so stupid.
yeah,
It's ma'am.
I think that there's really no place for identity politics in this game, and the fact
No,
that
it's a game.
the fact that you have to say that in 2019. I mean, this game
Well, yeah.
has existed for over 25 years now. This game is older than most people that follow your channel, I'm betting.
100%.
So, I mean, the game,
It's
yeah. Go ahead.
Well, the biggest thing that I can say about Magic is that it is just a game. At the end of the day, you can love it as much as you want, but
Yeah.
keep things in perspective. It is just a game. This
Right.
isn't meant to be a place where conflict happens day after day after day. It's meant to be something where you can sit down with friends and play a game. I don't care who your friends are. I don't care what race they are. I don't care what gender they are. It doesn't matter.
No.
It's a game. Like, just
And,
keep it in perspective. That's all.
right.
Like,
And it's not like we had a problem with female characters in Magic. I mean, even in
no.
1995, look at this Fallen Empire cover. You see this
Yeah.
chick? This chick picked up her sword after her father died and slayed 1,000 people.
Go her.
Yeah,
Way to be there.
I mean, it was definitely, it's not a problem with strong female characters. Most of the elves in Magic, the prominent ones, have always been female. Several of the planeswalkers.
Sisay from the Weatherlight.
Sisay from the Weatherlight. Even the importance of Urza's wife in the Antiquities War and Ashdod. I mean,
Yeah.
So identity politics, I think, have ruined a lot, and I don't think that people need to let it ruin this. But it's only going to come from Wizards. It's only
Yeah.
going to come from Wizards saying, you know what, we want to sell cardboard, and we
Yeah.
want to sell a lot of cardboard. We want to sell cardboard to people on the right. We want to sell cardboard to people on the left, in the middle, blue people, green people, white people, black people, all of them.
I don't know. Green people might be pushing it.
No. Not all, not all, not all. But no, I know this episode kind of went everywhere except through these comics, but I think that was probably for the benefit of our fan base. Like I said, I really have a hard time saying that I would not recommend this to a single soul, even my worst enemy, but they just were not good comic books. And I apologize to the creators. The art in them, the artist for these comic books was bar none fantastic.
Yeah,
Oh,
great.
yeah.
But the writing left a lot to be desired, and I don't even put that on the writer. I think the writer just wasn't given the proper tools to work with and did the best they
Or
could
the
with what they
proper
had.
timeline.
Right.
Like the stories definitely felt kind of rushed.
Right. And I think they did the best they could with what they had, but that still wasn't good. And, in good faith, I can't advise anyone read these. Check them out. Look at the pictures. The artwork's great.
Now, are you sure you wouldn't want to make Remfamous read them?
God, no.
Okay.
God, no. I don't know that she can read, first off. So she might just enjoy looking at the pictures, and that would be terrible. Renfamous is one of my good buddies on Twitter. She hates Comicsgate and the Weeb Wars. I'll talk to you about the Weeb Wars and after we get off the show. But you want to go ahead and plug your channel and your Twitter, kind of give a little bit of an outro
Yeah,
here?
I can. Well, first of all, I wanted to thank you guys for having me on, but for anybody watching, definitely appreciate you guys listening in on what has become an absolute rant, if nothing else. But yeah, our channel's below, links down there. Definitely check us out. We would very, very much appreciate the support, as always. But yeah, that's about it.
Okay. All right. Yeah, definitely. And like I said, guys, his
You wrote that down and rehearsed it beforehand, didn't you?
Oh yeah, 100%. I'm reading. I've been reading this entire time.
but no, with JB in the chat says that your guy was busted cold with Mark Sleeve. Desolator Magic went over this.
I don't
Desolator.
necessarily agree with Desolator.
Yeah, Desolator is a very controversial character in the Magic community. You love him or you hate him.
Yeah, I'll say this. While I don't agree with Desolator, I'm not. If you want to watch Desolator, that's totally fine and whatever. He did go over it. I actually watched his video on it, and I will say it sounded biased to me. I may be wrong, and I'm fully cool if that is the case, but it sounded like he just wanted something else to harp on, and so he found it.
Yeah.
That's about the best I can say. But
And
whatever, it's your opinion.
well, I think that this can kind of go for everybody, but no content creator should ever be taken at anything more than face value. Not us, not
Yeah.
It Resolves, not Rudy from Alpha Investments, not even Ethan Van Sciver. Um, we're not, we're not anything more than people talking into a microphone. At the end of the day, we don't necessarily have all the information. We aren't able to always quell our biases. Uh, we're just normal people, just like you guys, but people that latch on to these creators and they treat their word like gospel, it's kind of scary and it's not healthy.
Yeah, there's literally nothing special about any of us. We just happened to come up with an idea to do a show and did it. That's
Right, and that's not a shot at JB. If he liked Desolator, I want him to continue liking Desolator until the day
Yeah,
Desolator
absolutely.
stops
Yeah.
making content. I just say that
My
it's okay to disagree with people, and it's okay to
Yeah.
have a differing opinion of someone, and that doesn't mean you hate them and you need to have an internet beef with them.
Yeah.
Just
My
because.
argument is very heavily just don't regurgitate. And JB, I'm not calling you out. I'm not saying that you are. So just don't get the wrong idea, I guess, with that. But like, what I find very, very frustrating is when people do just regurgitate whatever their favorite YouTuber says. And
Right.
like you guys said, we're just normal people too. We don't have all the information. We may be wrong on things. So like, you might be regurgitating something that is just super off base. Like,
Right.
you don't have that idea.
I,
So
I think the meaning of this platform is to introduce people to things they might not know about, and then
Sure.
at that point you are interested in a topic and you go, hey, I'm going to go look into this for myself, and then you can approach it with your own eyes, and if you agree whole cloth, by all means regurgitate. but give yourself the opportunity to disagree on some things. You know, give yourself the
Yeah.
opportunity to think that your favorite YouTuber is just a guy
Yeah.
or girl.
Or
Or
Z.
somewhere in between. I don't.
Mm. Anyway, that's the show, guys. No, thank you very much, Kevin, for coming on. We definitely
Thank you for
appreciate it,
having me.
and we would be more than
Absolutely.
happy to have you come back and look at the better comics. I won't say good, but you know,
I mean, better than a pile of cow shit, you know.
yeah,
Yeah.
um,
Well.
which is more than we can say for the ones we looked at today. But anyway, thanks everybody for coming out and chat. Becky, JB, I think that's everybody that came out. That actually got in chat. I think we got up to 3 or 4 watching live, so we're getting there.
Yeah.
But thanks everybody for coming out. Thanks for joining me, both of you guys. Don't hang up just yet.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Until tomorrow, guys, we will either be covering Lock and Key or something else, but we will see you then. 10 p.m. Eastern Central, or Eastern Standard, just like always.